Hello friends and happy holidays. Today I wanted to share with you how I created this tote bag. This is an original art design that I made on Procreate, and using a Cricut Maker I've transferred it. So let me show you how I did it. I took the drawing from Procreate and exported it as a JPEG, and from there I used an online converter to change it into an SVG. Once I uploaded it into the design space, I got it prepped to cut, and I'm connecting to my Maker here. I was having a few issues with it today because I think it was my internet. It went out kind of randomly and disconnected because I was working through my iPad and the Maker, which you can go wirelessly. I think next time, just to ensure that it doesn't disconnect in the middle of a cut, I might try it tethered to the laptop. So you see me do this step more than once. I've connected to the Maker, and I've skipped some of the process through Design Space because I don't know how interested y'all are on those kind of walkthroughs on this channel. If you are interested in more details, please let me know. So I've connected my machine, and I'm going to go ahead and choose the best material suited for this project. And this is a foil iron-on. So you'll want to make sure that your image is on a mirror, which is on the left-hand side for the orientation on the iPad. Make sure that you have the correct points loaded, and your mat should be ready to go by this point. So once it's all set, you're going to hit that button to actually load the mat, and then you can hit go. Alright, so we're just going to fast forward through the cutting process. Again, I was having a little bit of difficulty. Two times the machine just powered down completely. I got an error saying that there was some kind of miscommunication. I'm not 100% sure that it was just the internet or if I have any actual problems with the Maker itself. It is pretty new though. I've only had it a couple weeks and it hasn't given me that problem before, so I'm hoping it was just an internet issue. When you do any kind of cutting on these machines, you'll want to make sure you do test cuts on a small area of any new material, because even across the same brands, not everything is going to cut the same way. And I have learned this the hard way. I started larger projects, bigger cuts, and then them not turn out how I wanted them to. So for this one in particular, I had planned on doing a second pass, but the machine did power down. So I was lucky enough to get the machine to go through the first pass completely before it shut down. On that note, before you unload your machine, as long as it's still powered on, I would highly recommend doing a small test on an area you know is safe to weed while it's still loaded in the machine, because if you hit go a second time without unloading, it will cut over the exact same spots, no problem. But if you unload and then try to reload something that's already been cut, there's no way you're going to get it to match up perfectly. Fortunately, that first pass did cut through well enough, so I took it to my desk where I began weeding with the sharp tool. I have learned that weeding with it still attached to your cutting mat is a little bit easier. The piece doesn't fold up on itself or curl, and it just makes it a little bit easier. Also, the color of your mat is often not the color of the thing that you're actually working, so weeding on the mat is kind of nice. I like it anyways for most instances. I had to really correct by hand some of the cuts because the foil is a little bit tricky. The gluey underside would cut through, but it didn't cut through on all the foil quite as deeply as I would have liked. So I'll just speed through that whole process. I didn't record it all. I thought that was quite boring and tedious, so I finished a lot of that weeding off camera. Once I had the bulk of it done, I trimmed off any unused, uncut areas so that I could save those bits and maybe reuse. And I cut a few lines to see if it was going to be helpful or not to give myself little broken areas to help facilitate the weeding, but it found out it wasn't really necessary for this project. So I'm just carefully going around trying to get all the excess pieces off. It feels like a big waste sometimes to have so many big blocks of unused material. I don't know if it's worth the headache of trying to cut out all these pieces individually and just piece it together. I don't think so, because then my spacing would be off and irregular between each project. And this image is an art piece, and I would like for it to stay the way it was intended. I also colored this piece and made it into a new vinyl sticker, which is also available in my shop. I really like it. The first time I ever played with this idea was not too long ago. I did a little watercolor. I liked it so much that I thought I would try it again for a Cricut project. So that's when I did the clean lines, a little bit different, and from there I decided to go ahead and color it and turn it into a sticker while I was at it. Here's the finished sticker design, which is now approximately a 3-inch sticker available in my shop. It is a heavy-duty vinyl, so it's very durable, resists scratches, and sun bleaching very well. And it is die cut into a hexagon, so there's just the tiniest white border. This was such a pain to weed, and I was on the verge of like just scrapping it and trying to start over, but it's a lot of material and it wasn't too bad, so I just stuck it through and tried to correct by hand. Sometimes though, you gotta just scrap it and start again. So now that it's all ready, I took the items to my garage. I am using here an Easy Press 2. This is in a 6x7 size. I chose the size because I thought it would be most conducive to the projects that I do. I tried a couple projects first with an iron and it just wasn't as successful. So when you turn it on, you have two things on the screen. You have your temperature and your timer, which you can adjust all right there with a couple buttons. When the go button turns green, it's ready to go ahead and start using. While it's heating up before it reaches temperature, it is like a red-orange color. Yeah, so I like this. Using an iron on my first couple of projects worked, but irons have uneven surface temperatures, so this is a lot more consistent. I forgot to do a critical step here. I usually lint roll my projects before I iron, and again after I iron, before I actually put the transfer on it. I forgot to do that. So when you are doing projects like this, please don't forget, because that could actually mess up the adhesion. And I'm also using one of the official Cricut heat pads, and this is the 8x10 size. I wish I had a larger size. As you can see, my image is not quite the same size. It should be the same size or smaller for the best results. So I'm just going to warm up the canvas tote bag that I have here. I picked up this tote bag from Hobby Lobby. I like it. It's not that big. It's like 13.5 by 13.5 inches. But what I love most about it is that it's a heavier cotton and that the bottom is gusseted. So even though it's not really big, you can hold a lot more as opposed to the tote bags that have just a straight seam along the bottom. So I'm just ironing it out, heating it up really well. Again, this would be a good time to lint roll, but I forgot. So now I'm going to figure out the best orientation for the heat pad. I'm putting it inside. I had a little bit of an issue trying to decide which orientation I was going to try. I thought horizontal would be the best, and then I second guessed myself and tried to move it the other direction. Turns out horizontal was the best way to go, and you'll see me just mess with it a little bit more before it dawns on me. Now, if you don't have materials that are the same size or bigger than what your image is, you can do like I'm doing and just work in small sections. You don't have to have a machine to press or a mat that is the same size or larger than whatever you're trying to transfer. It is just fine, as you'll see, to work in smaller segments. You just have to be careful. Make sure that you can get a good flat press and not press down too hard because you don't want to mess up or damage the HTV. So I'm just positioning it how I like it. It's centered but a little tilted, and I'm just going to work in small segments. And pressing go starts your timer, and I'm just going to fast forward through the timers because we don't need to watch all that. The timer does not go that fast. That was sped up drastically. And once you finish one area, just adjust and start your timer again. So I'm just going to work my way across the entire surface of the transfer. Be careful of any overlapping areas. You don't want to overheat it. I have kind of put a lot of high heat on regular HTV. It didn't really react too bad, but the texture changed a little bit from smooth to a little bumpier. It wasn't bubbly or anything, but it didn't look the same as some of the other runs I've had. So I adjusted the mat underneath to make sure that I got that nice cushion underneath the sections I'm now working on. And I'm just rubbing it all around to try to make sure there's a good adhesion all over. The way I figured out what temperature and time I would be needing, the Cricut Help section has a tool where you can input what you're using, which material you're using, which press or iron you're using, and it'll give you approximations as to how long you should be heating it, whether it's a hot or cold peel. Yeah, it gives you a little bit more info so you're not just going in blind, but I would say take that with a grain of salt because it doesn't always work exactly as they say. They do their best. They've done a lot of tests, but if you're using materials that are not Cricut, the results may vary, and you'll just have to kind of play it by ear and check as you go. So I'm heating the back, which you should do for all projects if you can. Just a few seconds. It's never the full length as the front side, but it helps with that adhesion. And again, you don't want to overheat it. So now I'm going in and I'm just checking to see if things actually stuck. And before I go in for adding more heat, you might want to let it cool down a little bit because, again, you don't want to burn anything. And the clear sheet that's on it is the backing that comes with it. You should never have any kind of heat directly on your HTV. You can see that cloth I have to the side. There are certain cloths you can buy that make it safer to iron on top of. You can also use fabric like a pillowcase or something else that's cotton and thin to protect your HTV surface. But this, I think this is like a cheap baking sheet that I picked up on eBay a while ago. And that works really well for me. So you'll see I make many more passes, and I'm trying to let it cool in between. Once that plastic is removed, definitely want to put that protective sheet on it before ever trying to iron again. I think it might be nice to have the Easy Press Mini, the really tiny one, because you can go in it and just hit the spots that aren't sticking instead of worrying about overheating the entire image. Not really sure if it's worth it for me at this point, but it's something I'm considering in the future. So I removed the pad just to help it cool off because the pad holds the heat and it kind of helps spread that heat out evenly, which really helps as opposed to just using a towel. Controls that heat a lot better. So you see me take it out every time I'm trying to let this thing cool down a bit. It's very cold in my garage right now, so it didn't take very long in between each time I tried. And I'm just giving it another test to see if we have a good adhesion. So far, everything's looking real good. You should pay attention to what the Cricut help website says as far as when you should peel, because if you peel too early or too late, it might actually stick to that backing again. So there it is. I think it looks pretty awesome. I really like this design a lot, and the pop of that gold foil metallic against that black is just really appealing to me. I've done bags like this already with like a holographic HTV, and those looked really cool, but the contrast with the gold I think is just a lot nicer because it pops. It's so easy to see. Yeah, I really like it. But if you prefer hollow, those bags are available currently on the website. I don't have too many of them though, so if you're interested, make sure you go check that out right away. I hope you liked this video so you could see the process. Each bag does take a little while, and the design is 100% original, so yeah, there's not too many of these out there in the world, and if you like awesome, unique designs, support an artist. My website is ashtonkaylee.com, and you can also find me on Instagram and Facebook, Patreon, and Coffee. So all those links are down below. If you are interested in more varied topics with this channel, please let me know, because I do a lot of different types of arts and crafts, some for fun, some for business, and I would love to share any of those things if you're interested in them. I've been having a lot of fun with the Cricut lately, experimenting on different ways to put my art on various merchandise, because not everyone's looking for wall art, but they would like maybe a t-shirt with a cool design. So I'm trying to do a little bit more with that now. Anywho, thanks so much for watching. I hope that you're having a great holiday season and Happy New Year. I should be back with another video before then, but just in case, y'all take care. Happy crafting, happy painting, and see you guys later. Bye bye.